me yesterday, and I woke up in the morning. I was trying to look at my phone and catch up on shit, see what was going on. But every time I looked at my screen, it made me 'cause my eye was watering and shit. It was burning to look at my screen. I'm like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, I don't know. It's either allergies or the wind in my eye, or I don't know. Oh, I went to the dentist today. Guess what my dentist said?
Hopefully, you don't have to have those things in too long.
No, this is my regular dentist, not the dentist that handles the orthodontics. She looked at my teeth, and I have to brush 3 or 4 times a day with these things.
Mm-hmm.
And so my appointment took all of 20 minutes. And at the end, the dentist said, my teeth are gorgeous.
Nice.
And that kind of made my day. A day, which is Tuesday. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lords of the Night. With me, as always, is the Lord of Pennies, Satsu 2 cents.
What up, dope?
And I'm your host, Scribe Light, the Lord of Punishment. Hello, chat. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all having a good day. Hope you're all staying cool wherever you are, because the heat has definitely hit in most places in the U.S. of A. Certainly where I am, where I have my glorified swamp cooler doing its best to keep me cool. But it's been quite a slog today, and last night too, because sleep was elusive as a result. But that's just me. Satsu, how are you doing?
Pretty good outside of my body feeling like crap.
Your body feels like crack?
Crap.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what crack feels like.
Oh.
I did get another shining kind of review on my this week's assignment. So that was nice.
Did your professor say, that's some good looking cooking?
Well, he was like, I am extremely impressed with the looks of this chicken. He was like, if that wasn't your counter that I seen every week, then it looks like something you see in a showroom or something.
Oh, yeah. My!
Yeah, he was like, that is an exceptional job.
Can you just challenge the class at this point? Just say, tell you what, give me the last assignment now. I just want to challenge the class. I will ace it beyond words, and you can refund me 3/4 of my tuition.
The only criticism he gave is he was like, I saw the one picture with the chicken and the crispy skin, and it is looking beautiful. And I was just like, holy crap, that's amazing.
But
and then I flipped over and saw the result picture, and you put the gravy on top of the chicken, and he was like, no.
Oh, no. You put it around the chicken.
He was like, no, don't do that. You ruined all the... But he was like, otherwise, you executed the assignment perfectly.
You got to frame the picture. You got to put the gravy around the chicken and frame it.
Yeah, he was like, you don't want to do that, man. Mess up all your hard work. And I was like, all right, cool.
It's about presentation.
Yep. So, did good. This next week we will be. There won't be any cooking. We'll actually just be learning how to fabricate a chicken. So that'll be fun.
Fabricate a chicken.
We'll break it down, essentially.
You're gonna break it down.
Yeah, we got to cut it all into all its individual parts, which I already know how to do. So that's going to be a cakewalk. So
you're going to do a cakewalk with the chicken.
Can we get to the news?
Okay. Before the stream, thank you, Point Curation. Hope everyone is doing well. Selling art on Etsy with a special code Turtle Cave for 70% off. And also thank you again, Point Curation. If you cannot afford a piece, I would be happy to arrange 99% off for 2 pieces if you can donate or give away 1 piece to a good cause. Yes, Point Curation does original artwork on his Etsy store. I don't have the link in front of me, but I'm sure he or someone will provide it presently. And if you go there and you use the special discount code Turtle Cave, viewers of Lords of the Night get an exclusive 70% off. And of course, as he says, if there's something you like, but it's outside your price range, which, truth be told, would be kind of crazy given what he's actually charging for these things. He's willing to negotiate. So thank you, Point Curation, and best of luck with that. And as well, thank you again, Point Curation, for also sick background. This one, or do you mean the thumbnail? Because the thumbnail, I should actually bring it up separately on the object. I don't know if people can see the thumbnail after I've posted it because, you know, it's kind of ends up really small on the screen somewhere, either on their phone or elsewise. So here, let me, just for reference's sake, and to show off my own artistic abilities, because I have very little to be proud of in life. I appreciate this. I appreciate the mournful silence for that one. Thank you.
Well,
so here, yes, for reference purposes, here is today's thumbnail. Another takeoff on, if you can believe it, Star Wars: The Old Republic, wherein I am posing as Darth Malgus. Satsu is, I know there's a name for that character, but it eludes me, but Satsu is a Sith Lord of some sort, and then Tailed Feature, Sinatra, and Squishy are all Imperial troopers or commandos or something. So there you go. Big excitement, I know. Make sure
everybody blended in very well in this one.
Yeah, I was most proud of like getting your face in there and making it fit like almost like perfectly. As far as I'm concerned, it just really worked in really well. But anywho, Monkey Dick, Jim Jones, movies, video games, hit that like button if you have not already, and many of you haven't. I'd appreciate it if you did. But please, regardless, share our stuff. Share it far, wide, sideways, and otherwise. Said it before, we'll say it again. YouTube does a very poor job of letting people know that content creators, especially smaller content creators, actually exist. So if there is a content creator that you appreciate, whether it's us or someone else, please be sure to let people know by tweeting it, Facebooking it, Napstering it, MySpace, Friendster, LiveJournal, you know, whatever the kids today are using, because you guys are our best algorithm. That all being said, I have a diverse selection of news stories tonight, Satsu.
Yeah.
In as far as I have 2 stories from CNN and 2 stories from Fox News.
Oh.
So we're going to be going on both sides of the ideological aisle tonight, unlike most nights where we're just going on mostly CNN's territory. So which would you like to delve into first, Satsu? Fox News or CNN?
We'll go into CNN, but before we do, there was some fucketry yesterday that I forgot to mention.
Oh, yes, that's right. I wrote that down, and I, just as you said that, I looked over like, oh, yeah, go ahead.
Well, first off, Poker, if you're in the chat, I'm sorry I missed your super chats. I did pass the message on to Scribbles, and for whatever reason, when I said I hadn't got down to it yet, I thought I had read the one that I was talking about, but I guess not. So sorry about that. I didn't mean to miss your super chat. But the other thing I wanted to mention was yesterday, somebody messaged me, somebody who I had talked to on numerous occasions before, who was kind of oblivious, or maybe not oblivious, but kind of intentionally just not really paying attention to the stuff that's been going on with the CNN and just the news and all that stuff. They messaged me yesterday and said, hey, did you hear about this whole Biden text messages or whatever? And I'm like, whatever are you referring to? So he was like, yeah, apparently, you know, Joe Biden was tossing the N-word around and saying all kinds of racist stuff or whatever.
Joe Biden or Hunter Biden?
Hunter.
Okay, you said Joe.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. Okay.
And he was like, did you see that? And I was like, no, I actually didn't see that. And he was like, that's crazy because I just saw it, but I had to look on, you know, one of the sites that I don't really consider to be very reputable to see it. And he was like, I'm just kind of amazed that nobody's really talking about this. And I'm like, really? You're amazed at that? And he was just like, yeah, like I checked CNN and everything, and they're not even talking about it. I'm just like,
dude.
I'm like,
have I got news for you?
And yeah, he was just like, you know, why would they bury something like that? And I'm like, well, it appears you have finally
yes.
started paying attention and realized that This has been going on for quite some time.
Yeah, if you can believe it, different media outlets have different political leanings.
Yeah. And he said a friend of his told him, like, hey, I don't care because it's not Joe Biden, it's Hunter, and what his kids doesn't really reflect what he does. And I'm like, sure.
That's true.
If it's Joe Biden, but let's just say it was Trump's kids and these emails came out. Even today, with Trump not being the president, it would still be national news.
Yeah, it's not the weight of the story, it's just the blatant hypocrisy of the media that is the more it's like the cover up is worse than the crime kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it's like okay, Hunter Biden did something crazy and stupid, if you can believe it. The lack that it's got any coverage in comparison to the previous 4 years, that's more the story than actually what Hunter said or did or whatever, as though that really matters. But
yeah, it was just kind of interesting because, like I told you, this is one of those people that I've talked to frequently, and they're just Ray Charles to everything that's not, according to the narrative. And I'm just like, oh, you caught on to that, huh?
All right. Thank you, tall person. Before Happy National Onion Rings Day. I don't have many opportunities to have onion rings these days. It's either fries, curly fries, occasionally onion rings. I don't know. I like the. There's a couple places where I'll order onion rings. They give you like the huge onion rings, like they take the giant onion ring kind of deal, and that's just too much. I like the more manageable sized ones. I don't know about you.
Yeah, the worst thing that can happen for me with an onion ring is when you bite into it and the whole onion comes out.
Yeah, it's like you just have like the breading shell by itself afterwards, and you're just like noodling up the. Yeah, that's why I don't really like the giant ones too much, because you don't end up actually getting the full experience. It's just like half and half.
Yeah, that shit sucks. I'm just like, I just want to throw it away.
All right, but moving on to the wonderful world of CNN per Satsu's selection. Let's go on to a story about a meme that was going around, more or less. Well, kind of a meme, but also a real-life event. Suspected shoplifter from viral video at San Francisco Walgreens arrested in spree of thefts. Just not the one that he was doing while the security officer was standing there watching and filming it with his phone. Did you see this?
Oh, yeah. I saw
it a few days ago, yeah. If you guys haven't seen this, I'm wary of playing the video in the browser on the off chance it's going to get me some trouble or copyright thing. But if you look up Walgreens shoplifting, you'll probably find a copy out there somewhere. A man suspected of brazenly shoplifting items at a Walgreens in San Francisco last week was arrested while carrying out another such theft on Saturday morning, according to police, and is accused of a spree of similar crimes. But I thought it's okay because there's like, below this limit of value, you're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah, plus he needed that stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah, the videotape shoplifting was a stark example of what chain drugstores and local officials said was a broader, persistent problem in the city. Really? Well, what are you doing about it? Jean Lugo Romero, 40, was arrested just after 8:30 a.m. Saturday at a drugstore on the 400 block of Haight Street in Haight Street. Go down to Haight Street in San Francisco. Was Ashbury far away? Police said in a statement on Twitter, police did not identify the store, but a CVS sits on the block. Officers with the SFPD Northern Station Street Crimes Unit saw Lugo Romero enter the store and found him, quote, clearing shelves of cosmetics and placing the merchandise into a duffel bag, police said, which might sound familiar if you saw the video. He was taken into custody without incident. The merchandise was valued at about $978, SFPD said. What was the limit? Oh, yeah, here you go. For Saturday's incident, Lugo Romero was booked into the San Francisco County Jail on charges of attempted grand theft, entering a business with the intent to commit theft, loss under $950. Wait a second. What was the total value? $978. It was over $950. What? Possession of narcotics paraphernalia and a warrant for failure to appear on a prior theft case, according to police. SFPD said they had already been looking for Lugo Romero, who is suspected of committing thefts from merchants in the Northern and Mission districts. Police described him in a tweet as a, quote, prolific retail theft suspect, unquote. I can't imagine. In particular, police said Lugo Romero was the man in last week's viral video captured by a reporter for CNN affiliate KGO. A reporter? Okay, so a reporter, I'm guessing a civilian and a security official of some kind, just stood there and watched. Okay. That shows suspected shoplifter taking items from a Walgreens and putting them into a black garbage bag. Thank you. This is Kyle. Hello, chat people in Lawton. Nice SWOTOR thumbnail, Scribe. It's a strange coincidence since I'm streaming KOTOR 2 tonight. Well, there you go. Is it the fully restored KOTOR 2? I hope, with all the bugs fixed out and all the extra content thrown back in. I'm wary of what they're going to do with the reissue, remaster, remake of KOTOR, the first game. I'm fearing they're going to edit out or add things in to try to make it fit in with the sequel trilogy, where you don't need to because the thing takes place 3,000 some odd years before any of the movies happened. But the thing is that there are references in that game to stuff that only existed in the EU, technically, but they only do it very abstractly.
You think they're going to pick somebody as like, Rey's so strong because she's the incarnate of somebody from back here.
Oh, Lord. if they try... Oh, man. If they try to tie Rey to Revan, I'm going to be pissed off.
Rey, Revan,
I sure as hell hope not, but anyway. Time will tell. Let's see. Back to the story. Let's see. The shoplifter left the store with the bag on a bike. The video shows no one was injured. For that incident, Lugo Romero was booked on charges of second-degree burglary, grand theft, 2 counts of entering a business with intent to commit theft, loss under $950, and 2 counts of petty theft. I have to doubt whether or not it was actually a loss under $950 since they already said that for the other one, but it was over. So, let's see. Local officials trying to crack down on organized retail crime. Well, it sure as hell didn't look like it. Last month, San Francisco Board of Supervisors member Asha Safi held a hearing to discuss the city's shoplifting problem, and retailers including Walgreens and CVS spoke up about the issue. Quote, "This has been out of control," Safi said at the hearing. Quote, "People are scared to go into these stores, seniors, people with disabilities, children, and it's just happening brazenly. We can't just, as a city, throw up our hands and say this is okay," unquote.
Yeah,
well,
you can.
It sure as heck looked like you are, because if it's rampant and everybody's doing it and it's an epidemic, what aren't you doing to prevent it? Thank you, point curation. Darth Revan Skywalker. Oh God. Yeah, if there's one thing I'm really glad they didn't do, they at no point in KOTOR, either KOTOR 1 or KOTOR 2, or even as far as I know in SWOTOR, does the last name Skywalker or Palpatine ever come up. They don't draw anything to anybody about nothing. Except in like the most like the closest you get is some very distant references regarding the Mandalorians to like the Fett clan, that kind of thing. That's about as close as you get, as far as I know. And there are other sort of sidewise references here and there, but they never say like this person is a ancestor of Lando Calrissian or something or whatever. So thankfully, but who knows what they'll do in the remaster. Let's see. Unfortunately, this is another example of blatant retail theft, which is an ongoing problem for several retailers in San Francisco. Walgreens spokesman Phil Caruso said in an email last week, referring to the theft caught on video. Let's see. These items be taken. Despite the shoplifting concerns, data from the San Francisco Police Department shows they are actually having a decline in total crime so far in 2021. Well, yes. But what was going on in 2020? Shoplifting is down 12.6% compared to last year. You mean last year when the lockdowns were just starting? Okay, well then I guess everything's okay then. All right. All right. Except for the guy like completely cleared out shelves in that thing. 3 people stood by and did nothing, and he did it again the next day. Kind of okay. Well,
what's wrong with that?
Whatever you say. All right. So to switch it up a bit, we're moving over to let's do this. I want to get the right page on the right tab. Let's jump over to a Fox News story. Republicans block, quote, rotten, unquote, election reform bill in Senate as Vice President Harris presides over debate. Uh-oh. GOP uses filibuster to stop debate on Democrats' top priority, S1. Now, if you hadn't heard, Satsu, there is a movement, purportedly, in the Democratic bloc to do away with the filibuster, to prevent this from happening ever again, or things like this.
Uh-huh.
And I have a prediction.
Uh-huh.
I have a prediction that doing away with the filibuster will fail, and will fail primarily in part due to Democrats not agreeing to get rid of it, because both Democrats and Republicans understand that at some point, either now or in the future, they will be in the minority on such things, and they'll want that filibuster available.
But if they're not stupid, sure.
Well, I mean, politically speaking and procedurally speaking, if they're not stupid. Now, if they actually want the Senate and so on to function quasi as it's supposed to, then they will eliminate the filibuster. But do I believe they actually want that? Not necessarily. In human form, thank you so much. Aye, Flames! Oh, he set it on fire. Everyone, if you have not already checked it out, check out In Human Form's channel. He does social criticism and psychology. He just put out a new video today going over a capsulated history of the fanaticism over the true crime genre, all the way from In Cold Blood. If you don't know what that is, you should. Great movie, by the way. Or just watch Capote if you want a great dramatization of that story. All the way through to Jim Can't Swim, which many of us enjoy. So thank you, In Human Form, and everybody go check out his channel if you haven't already. I've retweeted his stuff several times on my Twitter feed, so go check it out there. And of course, as I've let him know, he's welcome, as his real life is available to come onto the show anytime. But anyway, onward over to this. Senate Republicans Tuesday blocked sweeping legislation on election and campaign finance reforms that Democrats said, I think maybe you mean say, is crucial to ensuring voting rights and saving democracy. Because democracy is, it's gone. You know, it's dying. Even though our voting system is completely secure, it needs reforms. But democracy is dying. But Joe Biden is going to save us all, or something. But the GOP blasted as saving democracy, but the GOP blasted as a partisan power grab. The For the People Act, and it doesn't matter what side of the aisle does it. Whenever I hear the title of an act that just sounds so benevolent and benign, it's the Patriot Act, everybody. You don't want to not be a patriot, do you? This is the Save the Puppies Act.
Yeah, it's for the people. Why would you not like something that's for you?
It's for you. It obviously is. It just gets my hackles up a little bit, makes my ears perk up. The For the People Act needed 60 votes to clear a procedural vote in the Senate Tuesday, but Republicans filibustered and killed the legislation from advancing to debate. No Republicans joined with the 50 Democrats on the motion to proceed. And they knew that was coming, I'm sure. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky said Republicans won't stand for Democrats' attempt to impose new voting standards on states that would rig elections in their favor. He called the substance of the nearly 900-page bill rotten to its core. Well, many people say that some Republican states are putting in legislation that rigs elections in their favor. So, got anything to say on that, Mitch?
Nope.
I guess not. Thank you, Pecoraro, the Driving Ape-Man, for the number one, Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox. Wowie, wow, wow. Dogcat Fox says, thank you, Pecoraro. At least I think that's what he said, right?
Nah, that's not what I heard, but...
Well, now he's just looking at me weird. I don't know what he said. I can't understand him. Little mutant. Anyway, he called the substance of the nearly 900-page bill rotten to its core. Is it the state of Denmark? Let's see. Republicans took issue with imposing federal standards on state elections that they said would weaken state ID requirements. Okay, well, I am always, depending on the circumstances, a little bit cagey about federal law imposing on state sovereignty. So if this would supersede states setting their own election laws, standards, and so on, in some way that is egregious, I guess, then I guess that would be, I might or might not be on the side of that, depending. Thank you again, Point Curation, thoughtful true crime, motives, etc., in human form for engaging content. Watch a few minutes to see if you enjoy, not 100% aligned on politics, but WE.
Whatever.
But whatever. Okay. See, I'm not as hip to the lingo as the kids today.
It's okay, old man. I got you.
It almost felt like I was reading an old ad during the show.
Yeah, it did feel like that, didn't it?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I mean, if it is the intent of the super chatter that I do it in an ad form, I will do my best. It's the writing of the ads from olden days that wore me down pretty quick. Let's see. They also oppose starting a new public financing system for congressional elections and politicizing the Federal Elections Commission that enforces campaign finance laws. You'd have to tell me how they were politicizing it. As far as the public financing system, I've always been somewhat on the side of finding a way to make campaign finance more open to more people and not make it a situation where only the richest with the largest war chests have the opportunity to actually have a chance running for office. So finding ways to make campaign finance more even-keeled and resources available to candidates more, and I am using the word here, equitable, isn't something I'm immediately against. But again, it all comes down to the details because therein the devil lies. Thank you, Andrew Joyner, for the how's it going, Dogcat Fox? I don't know. How's it going, Dogcat Fox? Wowie, wow, wow. I still don't know what you're saying. And now he's looking at me again. Okay, no. I did my best. Thank you, Andrew.
He's going to kill you.
Probably in my sleep. Even GOP moderate Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska said she couldn't support the, quote, partisan federal takeover of the election system, unquote. Well, that's either accurate or hyperbole. I don't know. In a floor speech, she said she'd back elements of the bill and will co-sponsor the separate John Lewis Voting Rights Act, but can't back Democrats', quote, one-size-fits-all reforms. Okay, Democrats, with the White House on their side, framed the legislation as an urgent priority to save democracy in the face of GOP efforts in state legislatures around the country to pass, quote, voter suppression laws, unquote, in the wake of former President Trump's 2020 election loss and unsubstantiated claims of widespread voter fraud.
Isn't it interesting that right now the Democrats are trying to sell us a narrative that the Republicans, the evil Republicans, are trying to fix the system to make it to where they can only win and nobody else would ever be able to win. They're rigging it and making it to where people we want to be able to vote won't be able to vote. And that's horrible. So our solution is to get the government, the higher levels of the government, to make a flat line, straight out across the board set of rules that will strictly benefit us. And that's our solution to the evil Democrats doing that.
Well, strictly benefiting us is the accusation. I don't know, looking at this article, if that is true or if that's just, political rhetoric. I mean, that's the accusation. So I don't know.
I mean,
but if their federal legislation is aimed specifically to undermine the legislation that's been put in place by certain states in the last 6 months to a year, that I'm like I say, I'm no constitutional lawyer, but there's supposed to be in places a line between federal control and state sovereignty, and I'm not sure if that oversteps its bounds. Thank you, Shoehorn Aplenty, for the bowing, respectful Dogcat Fox.
So I guess the next question would be then, are these regulations that they want to implement across the board going to be a nonpartisan kind of agreement between both Republicans and Democrats? Because if it's not, then what's different from what you're doing right now, from what they're doing? Because what they're doing seems to be on a state by state thing. But you're talking about, no, we want to influence the way people vote across America. So I'm just like, that seems arguably worse if they won't have any input. But I guess we'll see.
Wowie, wow, wow. Yeah. So like I say, it's but the remaining stories I have are actually interrelated to this one. So let's take a look at, we'll sort of mirror image ourselves by going to another Fox News story, because I found this interesting today. And this isn't the only source for this story. It's just the one that I happened upon first. I think I saw another one on Yahoo News, but either way, Washington Post panned for report on Stacey Abrams and Democrats' evolution on voter ID. Quote, an absolute disgrace. And the undercard here says, Republicans flip-flop, Democrats evolve, one critic reacted. The Washington Post was slammed on Monday for a report on the apparent, quote, evolution, unquote, prominent Democrats have made when it comes to voter ID laws. Now, if you'll remember, voter ID laws and the requirement thereof for absentee or otherwise voting in several states over the last couple of months have been cited as undemocratic, little d democratic, racist, marginalized, so on and so forth, right?
Right.
Okay. Last week, Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat of West Virginia, attempted to spearhead his own voting rights legislation in hopes of getting some bipartisan support, which is looking grim, despite it being a more moderate shift from the liberal For the People Act. However, former Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams, what do you mean former gubernatorial? She is the governor, raised eyebrows by suggesting she's open to Manchin's bill, which requires voter ID.
Huh.
Now, again, I don't have it in front of me, but if I recall, Stacey Abrams had some choice things to say about the voter ID laws specifically in Georgia, her state, in recent months. Quote, "No one has ever objected to having to prove who you are to vote," Abrams said on CNN last week. It's been part of our nation's history since the inception of voting. You didn't do a close quote there, Fox News, but either way. Well, Stacey, no one has ever objected. Are you sure? Now, first off, even if you yourself had never done so, that is a ridiculous generalization of a statement to make. People have. Are.
And it is also a generalization that they use often whenever they're talking about, whenever they're trying to rebut. Nobody's ever made that argument. It's like, but then why am I talking?
But as the Republican National Committee pointed out over the weekend, the Georgia Democrat had a sharply different stance just 2 months ago, linking voter ID requirements to, quote, Jim Crow, unquote. Quote, "Voters without a driver's license or state ID must surrender their personal information and risk identity theft just to receive an absentee ballot," unquote, Abrams said while plugging her, quote, "Stop Jim Crow 2, unquote, website in opposition to Georgia's election reform legislation. Quote, "And then there are the 200,000 Georgia voters who don't have either ID and the punitive free ID that's not free when you factor in the cost of transportation and the cost of an underlining document," unquote. The cost of an underlining document, because as we know, certain people just have no idea how to obtain ID because reasons. The Washington Post appeared to whitewash, there's a choice word there, Fox, her stance on, and the Democrats broadly, running the headline, quote, "Stacey Abrams and the Democrats' evolution on voter ID." Quote, "It still isn't clear exactly what will happen with Senator Joe Manchin III's middle ground proposal on voting rights." Well, it'll probably fail as well, because any ground that's given to anything that isn't what the Republicans want is a win for Joe Biden, and they can't give Joe Biden a win, just like the Democrats couldn't do anything to allow Donald Trump to look like he was gaining any ground on anything. So I'm pretty sure that even Joe Manchin's middle ground attempt is probably going to fail.
And they've already openly basically shown that anything is sacrificial in that regard. Like, we don't matter what it takes or who suffers because of it. We are willing to do whatever. So if y'all lose out as a result, we don't give a fuck as long as we win.
Whatever we can do to prevent there being a signing ceremony photo op for the president.
Yeah.
The president on the opposite side of the aisle from us, we will do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Even if it is, cutting off our nose to spite our face. And I'm not saying the voting rights here thing is or isn't. It's a big mess anyway. But even if it was something that Republicans love, they would work to prevent it. And same went for the Democrats as well. Let's see. But regardless of what happens with the bill, Manchin's proposal has moved the needle in one significant way, signaling a softening of key Democrats on voter ID, unquote. Post senior reporter Aaron Blake wrote, signaling softening. Quote, "Among the carrots for Republicans in Manchin's proposal is a voter ID provision. Republicans pushed voter ID hard at the state level in recent years, but rather than merely describe Manchin's voter ID proposal as a concession, some key Democrats have suggested they don't really object to it or the broader concept at all," which is an absolute lie.
Yeah.
Absolute lie, as they've already shown, at least in the example of Stacey Abrams. And I'm sure, I'm not even sure, I know for a fact, many, many, many others that have joined in on that. Blake outlined the current stances of Abrams and Senator Raphael Warnock, Georgia, both of whom Fox, both of whom claim they never opposed voter ID laws and acknowledge that critics on the right have accused Democrats of hypocrisy and revisionism. Now, I just want to note that if I got the who versus whom thing wrong there, I'm a bad English major. No, actually, I'm not. It's been a long time. And, I see ever since the W.E.B. Du Bois thing, anytime I think I know for sure that something is a particular way, the spike of doubt falls upon my head like Damocles' sword, and I go, maybe I'm wrong. I don't want to be wrong, but maybe I am. Anyway.
It's so funny, man, because in the Democrats, like their mistake right now is they still believe that the media is 100% on their side. And I'm like, Trump's gone now. Like, Trump's gone. And a lot of these reporters and stuff, eventually that whole Trump train, that gravy train, it's slowly getting less and less enticing to a lot of these journalists. And they've been paying more and more attention to what's actually going on, to the point to where we're seeing some of them come out and, definitively and directly criticize Biden. You can't just say shit like that and go all in and expect the media to just be like, yeah, we'll pretend like you never said that. Like,
yeah, if Trump were still in power, you'd never hear it.
Right.
If Trump were still in power and whatever they were doing were immediately undermining Trump's. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, the media is a business. They need the clicks, and controversy and hypocrisy and flip-flopping is news to people. People like reading that stuff, on both sides of the aisle, right? Because on the one hand, you get the Republicans or the conservatives or whoever's on the right going like, aha, see, I told you. And then on the other hand, especially these days, you get the purist on the left wanting to find those they want to cull out of the process for being, betrayers to the true cause or something. So as far as the media is concerned, they always win if they can find contradiction or controversy, except apparently if it's directly from Joe Biden himself. In that case, they'll always play it down almost to a 1. But if it's anybody on the periphery, then they're becoming more fair game as time goes on. Because like you say, yeah, Trump doesn't sell as much anymore because he's not doing anything. It's just, we've gotten to the point where they're spending more time speculating on what he might do politically 2 or 3 or 4 years from now than anything he's actually doing right now. But hey, them is the breaks, as they say. Thank you again, Point Curation. Shilling again, Turtle Cave for 70% off. Feel free to spread that tongue butter. Shop is Point Curation, all one word. So over on Etsy, guys, look up Point Curation, all one word, and check out his original art for ridiculous low prices, because every piece that you buy off of him is one less he has to move to his new location, because he's in the process of moving. And again, thank you, Point Curation. If you cannot afford a painting, then message me to arrange 99% off for 2 paintings if you can donate or give one away to a good cause. So there you go.
And to address Pyrus Creed, he said, for the love of God, Scribe, you and Satsu started this show with how the media doesn't cover stories that make Biden and administration look bad. That's true. But I also did say that it's not going to stay like that.
This doesn't make the Biden administration look bad.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, there's that too. But
yeah, he was
commenting more on specifically that I said that the media is not completely on their side. That's not going to stay that way. Eventually, that gravy train is going to run out. And once it does, they're not going to be able to keep saying all the shit that they keep saying and getting away with it, because, some of these stories have been trickling out, even though they're still softballing it. But you got to also remember, too, a lot of these people are trying to still have access to Biden.
Right. Yeah. And like I say, it depends on the source. Right? Because like the Washington Post, they will soften the reality of what happened from flip-flop to evolving.
Right.
CNN will avoid entirely doing anything that's blatantly or too stringently against Biden, unless it's something they just cannot avoid.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Fox News, as you see, there's still a partisan bias in the media. It all depends on the source. It all depends on, like, Satsu said, it's access media.
Right.
If anything they do, if they think anything they're going to do is going to risk their access and their exclusivity to power and powerful individuals, they will either refrain completely or put as gentle an iteration on it as they can. And that goes for either side depending on who they're trying to court for attention. And even now, like Fox News has to also tread a line because they got so much flack and are still getting so much flack for how much space they gave to the big lie coverage, which has very much hurt their ability to access current administration officials, that even they have to sort of like say, okay, well, we're going to have to. It really is the death of bravery in journalism. The death of the fourth estate to believe that they hold a responsibility and a power all their own, that the politicians should be courting. It's been reversed. I mean, the politicians should be courting the media in order to get the message out and placate or please the public through the media. But now it's the other way around. Well, the media is courting the politicians to get the clicks from the public and tell the public what the politicians want to hear. I mean, it's always been a bit of a give and a take, but certainly the independence and bravery of mass media or major media outlets over the last 30, 40 years has consistently degraded and switched loyalties, if you'll take my name.
Yeah, and that aligns with the warning that we were given before. If you give the government a little too much leeway, they not giving it back. You don't just give them that kind of power and then they're like, all right, we're done with it. You can have it back. Like once you give them that power, they're gonna fucking keep it.
Yeah, I mean the one example right now, which again wasn't exclusive to Biden, but apparently is being leveraged far more by Biden than previous administrations, is the editorial control they demand on any reporter in the White House pool ever quoting anyone by name from the administration. Because if you do that, then the White House claims editorial control on what you say about what they said. Otherwise, everything has to be a source familiar with the matter or an anonymous source or something, as though that is meant to express what to the reader, except some guy said a thing. Anyway, we've gone over time, so we're going to move on to the wonderful world of MSS News. Everyone, if you have news stories you'd like us to read on the air, please send them to us via Twitter using the hashtag MSS News. Can't promise to get to them all, but I'll try. That's the best I can do. Do or do not, there is no try. I know I'm betraying Yoda, but what can you do? Let's see. This one comes from Frosted Glass. Let me pull that up by clicking on this and then that. Yeah, this is all over the place today. Horror flick Karen already causing backlash as a Jordan Peele knockoff after a new trailer drops. Did you see this, Satsu?
No, I haven't.
It was so cringe. I don't. It was difficult to tell if it was like, okay, is this trying to be like a satire or is this trying to be taken seriously? I think it was trying to be taken seriously, but it's so. If imitation is the highest form of flattery, the forthcoming horror flick Karen might as well be an ode to the legendary storyteller Jordan Peele. Is Jordan Peele a legendary storyteller at this point?
It depends on who you ask.
I guess so. And yet, for fans of Peele, at least, and much of the internet, now I don't know if this person's name is pronounced Coke or Koki. I'm going to assume it's Koki because if someone named their kid I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to say Koki. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. The Koki Daniels directed film is more upsetting than flattering. Per IMDb, Karen is the story of a, quote, racist, entitled white woman in the South, unquote, who, quote, terrorizes her new black neighbors, unquote, which doesn't actually sound all that fictional. Said, quote, racist, entitled white woman is unsurprisingly named Karen and played by Taryn Manning of Orange is the New Black fame. All right, admittedly, I stopped watching Orange is the New Black after like the second season because and maybe this is just me at that point, and maybe it got better, but at that point, the main character had absolutely no redeeming qualities whatsoever. I mean, I can get into an anti-hero. Oh, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm like, Punisher #1 fan. But in that show, by the time the second season was over with, I was like, there's nothing about the main character that I do not at all care to know whether or not she succeeds. In fact, given her attitude and everything she's done, I have no hope except that she fails miserably at life forever. And when you have that emotion about the protagonist, even a protagonist who's, living on the gray edge of things or otherwise, because I wanted to see what happened to Tony Soprano, right? Season to season, episode to episode.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he was a sociopathic, evil, just pile of crap, as well as everybody around him, it was still something I wanted to see what happens. Nothing about that. I don't even remember her name or main character in that show made me go like, I want to see more what happened. Anyway, following the release of a second trailer for the movie on Monday, many are comparing the movie to Peele's critically acclaimed horror film, Get Out, but not in a good way. Like Get Out, Karen is very clearly a movie about white supremacist violence targeting black people, but it doesn't appear to carry the same nuanced commentary and depth, simply portraying more white violence for the sake of shock and outrage. Unlike a lot of what we're seeing in the media these days. Similar criticisms have recently been made of Amazon's Them, an anthology series that will explore the horrors of racial terrorism. There's nothing more entertaining to me than stuff about racial terrorism.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to go get a subscription to that kind of content. And in its first season, shows repeated graphic violence enacted upon a black family and other black characters for no real purpose except, presumably, to tell people that racism was and is real and bad. Yeah, it's racism porn. Can you
Wait a
imagine
minute.
Yeah.
How do you levy that type of criticism to literally? You're going to levy it to this. That's, I don't know whether it's claiming to be a parody or not, but not the things that were literally created to do the exact thing that you mentioned. Like, they were simply created to just point out this fact that this thing exists. It's like, yeah, but the people who made the original, that was his goal. His goal was only to exclusively do that. White people bad, the movie. That's what it was made for. What the fuck do you mean? How is that your criticism, but you like the other movie? You like the original for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the fuck? That don't make no fucking sense at all.
Thank you, Point Curation. For more art, Imager user Point Curation.
There was no fucking nuance. Jesus.
What do you mean, Point Curation? Oh, you're talking about the criticism. Okay, well, I was trying to showcase his super chat and you cut me off. Anyway, for more art, Imager user Point Curation. So if you want to see what kind of stuff Point makes before you decide to go on and use his discount code Turtle Cave on his Etsy store, go check that out too. Thank you, Point. As the internet continues its scathing critiques of Karen, mostly by calling it a knockoff of Get Out, it's worth remembering what exactly made Peele's 2017 movie so unique and chilling. Because it was
about the nuance.
Yeah, at first, Get Out appears to be a movie about an interracial couple spending the weekend in the woods with white girlfriend Rose Armitage's family. But the Armitages have another plan for Chris Washington, Rose's black boyfriend, which is quite literally to harvest black people's bodies, in which the Armitages will transplant their brains. At first, Get Out appears to be... Every part of the advertising for Get Out told you what the movie was about. There wasn't anything... There was no nuance in the advertising, the marketing of that movie. So you knew going in what it was going to be about. But either way. When not done right... I'm curious to know what right means. A racial horror, a relatively new genre that Get Out paved the way for. Okay, so if we accept that Get Out was the first of its kind, which it really wasn't, but either way, as far as like a horror movie specifically geared towards this, then I guess there really is no way to criticize it since there wasn't anything to compare it to ahead of time. So you could say that Get Out is the litmus test against which any other quote-unquote racial horror movie has to go up against. So is it fair then to constantly compare anything dealing with that subject to Get Out, the grandfather of the entire genre?
Sure it is.
It's never going to be as good, whatever that means. What made Get Out special was its deeper commentary on the insidiousness of white liberalism. The insidiousness of white liberalism.
You mean the very white liberalism? You mean the very thing actually building the foundation of almost every activist movement today? White liberalism is carrying every every activist movement that we can think of right now.
Well, yeah, but you'll hear it, and I've done more than a few TEDx's on it, where you'll have literally a white lady standing on a stage. seriously, this was a TEDx I did not that long ago. A lady stands up on a stage, white lady, and she talks about what the biggest problem with, I think she was talking about, it was either the feminist movement or the diversity movement, one of the two. Okay, and she says, the biggest problem is white liberals. That's what she said on the stage. She declared the biggest problem with these movements is white liberals, of which she is one.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was just like, okay. And then she goes on to explain, or, well, attempt to explain a whole bunch of stuff. Anyway, thank you, Tall Person. Anyone remember the 2008 movie Lakeview Terrace? I do vaguely.
I definitely remember hearing that title.
Yeah. I also remember, I mean, if you want to talk about, I mean, I guess in the sense that you have a horror movie where the main plot thread is racist motivation on the part of the villains. Maybe there hasn't been, but like racialized horror, I know this is going to date me as all hell, but I remember back the TV series Roots, when you had like the whipping scene of Kunta Kinte or Toby, and just how horrifying that was. And now it wasn't a horror movie in that sense. It was, I guess you could call it drama, but that stuff was horrific.
Yeah, I think they're specifically, they're really trying to specifically hone on the fact that it was designed to be a suspenseful horror kind of flick.
Yeah, so if Get Out is the first of its kind in that sense, maybe it is. But yeah, Lakeview Terrace, I vaguely... Oh yeah, Ebony Williams, hold on. That's what it was. I was trying to think because there was... Hold on a second. Thank you, Ebony Williams. Samuel L. Jackson terrorizes an interracial couple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw that movie.
Because I was thinking, there was another one... like the title of the movie was like an address thing, and it was like something Heights, and it was like Ray Liotta terrorizing a couple in their house or something. I forget. It was like Pacific Heights or something. Was it Pacific Heights? Something like that. Anyway, I remember that Lakeview Terrace. Remember the title? Took me a second. Thank you, Ebony. But that was a thriller. You see, that probably wasn't a horror movie. There wasn't any like. It wasn't gory. There wasn't any sci-fi to it, or anyway.
That was definitely more of a thriller, or at least atmospherically, it was presented as such.
Yeah.
But Get Out was definitely, it was presented more in a horror. Like you could look at that and be like, yeah, that's what they were going for. Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is that I'm sure there are ways to make a movie with that as the villain's motivation a good movie, but if the only thing you have in there is racism is bad as the underlying quote unquote lesson, is there anything interesting? I mean, whether it's this movie or something else, is there anything interesting about it?
Well, not really. And also we have to remember the fact that a black person wrote this movie. And the only reason that would be relevant is because that, especially now, and in this kind of climate that we're in, there's no way that a white person could even attempt to write something like this and it be okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. Chances are, if they try to put out a movie like that, they're going to be like, what the fuck do you know about this?
Right.
Like, you should leave that to the experts, the people who know better. So if another movie was to come out to try to either mimic or imitate the medium, it'd have to be written by another black person, which means that, you know, room for criticism, it ain't really much. So,
all right, we're going to move on to one from Sean Uli. Background checks blocked a record high 300,000 gun sales. The number of people stopped from buying guns through the U.S. background check system hit an all-time high of more than 300,000 last year amid a surge of firearm sales, according to new records obtained by the group Every Town for Gun Safety. The FBI numbers provided to the Associated Press show the background checks blocked nearly twice as many gun sales in 2020 as in the year before. About 42% of those denials were because the would-be buyers had felony convictions on their records. Aha! The increase in blocked gun sales largely tracks with the record-setting surge in sales that took hold along with the coronavirus pandemic and has continued into this year. Okay, so is it because the system's working better, or just because the number of attempted sales went through the roof in the year, and likewise the number of rejections also went up?
Chances are it's a combination of both.
Yeah, and of course, here's the other question: if someone who's denied a legal gun purchase, are they completely incapable of acquiring a gun if they really wanted to? Yeah, but I mean, I'm glad that it's working in as far as someone who obviously is not allowed to possess a gun is denied the ability to buy a gun legally. So that's good.
Sure.
Does it say that the system's working better or just working as planned, just with a greater volume?
Well, at the end of the day, it says whatever this whoever wrote this article's agenda is saying it says.
The increase in block gun sales largely tracks with the record. So yeah. Right. So again, proportionally, the number of guns blocked was in alignment with the number of sales that increased. So yeah, it doesn't appear to be like, oh, well, now suddenly it's working better or more than it would be otherwise. It comes as Congress has failed to pass major legislation on guns despite the Democratic majority and President Joe Biden's push. A bill that would strengthen background checks is stalled in the Senate. Strengthen how?
Wait a minute. Why do they need to be strengthened if you're talking about we reached a record high and how many it's already prevented?
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's why one to tell me, like, what do you mean strengthen? Like, what more would be done by this? The House in March passed the legislation requiring the checks on all sales and transfers, as well as an expanded 10-day review for gun purchases. Most states require background checks only for sales at federally licensed dealers, but the legislation faces an uphill battle getting any Republican support in the Senate. Okay, all sales and transfers. So that means even at private. Like gun shows and things like, is that trying to what they call closing the gun show loophole or whatever they call it?
I would imagine so. But...
something like that. Okay. According to the data, the rate of barred would-be gun buyers also increased somewhat over the previous 2 years, from about 0.6% to 0.8%. That could be in part because many of the people who tried to get guns in 2020 were buying them for the first time and may not have been aware that they were legally barred from owning them, said Adam Winkler, a UCLA law professor specializing in gun policy. Quote, some may have a felony conviction on their record and not think about it, he said. Okay, so again, this isn't necessarily evidence that the background checks system is, quote unquote, working better. It's just working in proportion to the number of sales attempted. Okay. That seems to be what is suggested here more than something else. Thank you, Point Curation. First Amendment, Second Amendment in California. Or in Canada? What? What do you mean? You're talking in riddles. 1A, 2A, and CA. What? I don't... Clarify. Canada. Okay. First Amendment / Second Amendment in California. Canada. Blah. Okay. But you don't have a First Amendment, Second Amendment in Canada. You have the, was it Rights and Freedoms? What it was called?
Canadafornia.
That's all it is, just an extension of California. Yeah, I need clarification, Point Curation. Clarification, Point Curation. I will keep an eye on the chat in the next minute or two. Anyway, okay, so glad the system's there. Not sure if that's saying anything more than, like I say, volume comparatively. Let's see. I read one from okay, going down a bit. Okay, the whole thing jumped on me. This one comes from Pincalo, the driving ape man. Let's see who's messaging me over here. Oh, okay, I see. Okay, sorry guys, getting all types of different things from different people. Pincalo says, for fuck's sake, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Canadian Constitution of 1865. I'm sorry, I'm not a Canadian historian or legal scholar. I've heard it before. I'm sorry. I don't know. I apologize. If you know what that's from, you watch good TV. Saudis who killed journalist Khashoggi received paramilitary training in U.S. report.
Lovely.
Well, I mean, providing paramilitary training to our allies is not unheard of altogether. That it would then might be used against either our interests or someone else. This does not shock me in any way, shape, or form. 4 Saudis who participated in the 2018 killing of the Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi received paramilitary training in the United States the previous year under a contract approved by the State Department, the New York Times reported on Tuesday. Yes, well, we provide training to many, many, many allies, whether it's the Saudi Arabia or otherwise. So, again, doesn't shock me. But thank you again, Point Curation. I went from opposing to now wondering if balkanization is the only answer for in Canada. We need states with strong powers to oppose feds, even stronger and more independent than the USA, probably. Point, I'm sure that you have met Jen T. Maxey in the chat. I think Jen still does live streams about Canadian happenings and shenanigans. If you haven't already talked to her about it, or maybe do a show or something, you might think about it. Or I know Pincalo and Blind Press talk about Canadian going-ons all the time. I did a Familiar with the Matter with Jen many, many moons ago now, just getting some of the lowdown of the Canadian politics at that time, and just kind of blew my mind. Yeah, I don't know. Could that actually happen in Canada? Could you actually have the various provinces demand they become states and then demand sovereignty, et cetera, and so forth? I don't know. I'd be curious to find out, but I can't cover that right now. But maybe I'll talk to you guys some other time about it. Or hold a forum to inform all us, silly Yankees about what's going on in Canada. Because we don't know. Let's see. And Pincalo says, Blind Press and Functional have the Canadian Corner tomorrow, Scribe. Well, Pincalo, at what time and where can people find this show in case they are curious about Canadian politics? He also says, QC and Alberta have threatened separating for years. I know, Quebec have, wanted to make their own country practically forever. Yeah, let me know the schedule of that show, Pincalo, and I'll put it up here in a second.
Is it going to be Quebec? Brexit?
Ooh, if somebody hadn't already thought of that, you're a genius, Satsu.
That's right.
The training was provided by Tier 1 Group, which is owned by the private equity firm Cerberus Capital Management, and was defensive in nature and devised to protect Saudi leaders, the Times reported. Yes, protect them from their journalistic enemies. Cerberus did not immediately respond to a request for comment from Reuters. Cerberus did... Okay, I might be wrong, and this has been a long time. Does Cerberus have any connection with Blackwater?
I do.
Either financially or personnel or something. I keep thinking, because I know Blackwater renamed themselves because of all the bad press they got during the Iraq War. I don't think they became Cerberus, but I'm just wondering if there's some genetic memory to the whole thing. Let's see, the U.S. policy towards Saudi Arabia, quote, will prioritize the rule of law and respect for human rights, unquote. Really? You're going to stop them from cutting off people's hands and stuff, or stoning, or whatever else? Khashoggi, a U.S. resident who wrote opinion columns for the Washington Post critical of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, was killed and dismembered by a team of operatives linked to the prince in the kingdom's consulate in Istanbul in October 2018. A U.S. intelligence report in February said the Crown Prince had approved an operation to capture or kill the journalist. Well, what have we been doing about that? What is Joe Biden's stance on that, I wonder? Cerberus senior executive Louis Bremer confirmed this company's role in the training of 4 members of the Khashoggi kill team last year in written answers to questions from members of Congress as part of his nomination for a senior Pentagon job in former President Donald Trump's administration, according to the Times. But the lawmakers never received the answers because the Trump administration does not appear to have sent them to Congress before withdrawing Bremer's nomination, according to the Times, which said Bremer provided it with the document. So it was kind of irrelevant because he was no longer going after the position, but there you go. Bremer said the U.S. State Department and other government agencies are responsible for vetting foreign forces trained on U.S. soil, the Times reported. Oh, okay. So U.S. is responsible for vetting. You guys just provide the training and don't ask any questions about, okay. I mean, I guess that may or may not be proper. I don't know. Let's see. Back over to here. I don't see anything from Point on a schedule. You say it's tomorrow. What time tomorrow? Did I miss it? Let me know. Okay, well, Yeah, we provided training to many different places over the years, some of which we regretted after the fact because all that training was used against our own interests or people, or that's kind of a running theme with America. It's like, we'll help out our allies, even if they're just allies of convenience, and they turn around on us 6 months, a year later. Just a couple more here, maybe, and then we'll move on. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I tweeted out something last night just before bedtime about this, and so I'm glad somebody found this one. Comes from Top Ramen Lewis. You know nothing about the Tusken Raider who became a Jedi. Wait, actually, I do. Let's see. Hold on. I'm thinking for a second here. I'm not looking anything up. His real name was Asharad Het. And he was a Tusken Raider, but he was raised by Tusken Raiders, so he's kind of like accepted into their tribe or whatever, because I think he was like either abandoned or something like that, right? He was adopted more or less, and then not only did he become a Jedi, Asharad Het was his name, and I'm not looking this up. This is me showing off my nerdery, but through a crazy series of events, he would go from being a Jedi to eventually becoming quasi-immortal. And then later on, hundreds of years after the movies, he would become the leader of the One Sith, which was a new Sith order around the time of Luke Skywalker's great-grandson, Cade Skywalker, except he took on the name Darth Krayt after the Krayt dragons, who are native to Tatooine, which is where the Sand People were. And he had a biomechanical sort of suit of armor that disguised his identity for the longest time in the Star Wars comics that we're telling about. And it was a big reveal when his mask finally came off and you saw it was Asharad Het. Have I blown your mind, Satsu?
Oh, out of this fucking universe.
Now, I had thought just by reading the snippet, this was about a piece of trivia somebody posted about the Tusken Raiders last night or the day before, and they were completely wrong on it. They said that the Sand People were the ones that killed Luke's aunt and uncle, except it wasn't the Sand People. It was the Stormtroopers using the Sand People and framing them for it to conceal their presence on Tatooine. But the person who was doing this trivia download just declared this was the case, and they're completely wrong. Anyway, now that is my recitation of this character without scrolling down into the article. Let's see how accurate I was in my memory, because that was my memory of the whole thing. Many Star Wars fans are already familiar with the formidable race of nomadic tribes known as the Tusken Raiders, who inhabit Tatooine and live in different areas across the sand of Dune Sea. The Sands, plural. They had appeared a handful of times in the movies within the Skywalker saga, and recently they had their time to shine in The Mandalorian. The Tusken Raiders' history has been somewhat sidelined by the mainstream canon, unless you pay attention to KOTOR 1, where you get a giant download of that if you take the time to listen to the elders in the Tusken Raider camps. But are you aware of the Tusken in Legends, who became a Jedi and joined the dark side as a Sith Lord in Dark Horse's Star Wars comics? This was the prequel era of Star Wars films long before the expanded universe stories were eliminated from canon. In the Dark Horse's Star Wars comics, Asharad Het, the former Jedi, became disillusioned with his life. It was Asharad. Wait. Yes. Asharad is his son. Sorry. Asharad Het, the former Jedi, became disillusioned with his life as a Jedi after the death of his family, exiling himself on Tatooine and embracing the culture of the Tusken Raiders, even becoming one of their leaders. He later had a son named Asharad, who was trained to be a Jedi and grew up in the Tusken culture after his father was killed by Aurra Sing. Aurra Sing, a bounty hunter who made a very, very brief appearance in the first Phantom Menace movie, and then only had adventures afterwards in comic books and stuff. So I was wrong about him being an abandoned kid or something. But so that was the part I got wrong. He entered the Jedi Order to train and become a knight, wearing his traditional head wrapping of the Tusken Raiders culture. Asharad Het also served alongside Anakin Skywalker at the time. This was during the height of the Clone Wars. Anakin Skywalker slaughtered the Tusken tribe that abducted his mother in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, but Asharad chose not to reveal Anakin's dark acts to the Order. As a Tusken, he wanted revenge, but as a Jedi, he knew that Anakin's secret was his burden to bear, and that he had to seek redemption and accept that his actions were so steeped in the dark side. After a while, he took off his wrappings and revealed that he was a human underneath it. Asherad managed to survive the Clone Wars after taking part in the key conflicts during the war, such as the Battle of Boz Pitti and the Siege of Saleucami. He was one of the few Jedi that escaped the Great Jedi Purge in 19 BBY. Asherad Het eventually made his way back to Tatooine, where he waged a private war against the new Galactic Empire, but was exiled from Tatooine after the confrontation with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Later, he found out that Anakin Skywalker was the Sith Lord Darth Vader, who had aided in the annihilation of the Jedi Order. Het blamed himself for the annihilation and became a bounty hunter. Asherad came across the Sith planet Korriban, where he trained as a Sith Lord under the tutelage of the Dark Lord Zhojan, where he finally fell deep into the dark side after being captured and got tortured by the Zhujan Vong. After this, he proclaimed himself Dread Lord and Dark Lord of the Sith, taking on the name of Darth Krayt, named after the fearsome dragons hunted by the Sand People. Darth Krayt tried to rebuild the Sith Empire and ultimately went toe-to-toe with Cade Skywalker, Luke's descendant in the Legacy comics from the Legends timeline, which took place over a century after the original 6 saga films. I was mostly right. This is a shameful day for me.
I mean, I'm sure you're impressing someone in the chat.
Yes. Chat, tell me how impressed you are. They're talking about Canadian politics. No one cares.
Whenever I hear, especially when they get into like Skywalkers that weren't, like in the movies and stuff, and they really start to kind of branch out, I start to think about the Belmonts for whatever reason.
Well, I mean, Cade Skywalker. Now, I think I own one of the Legacy comic books, but Cade Skywalker was kind of like that. He was sort of a swashbuckling, not completely lights. He wasn't like his ancestor at all. He was kind of a womanizing adventurer, pirate slash. He was more like if you took Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and put them together into one character, but a bit more Han Solo than Luke Skywalker. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jamie Milquist says, my daughter turned off stream. It's her way of saying to say hi to Scribe. She turned off the stream and says, hi, Scribe. Okay. Well, that's an interesting way to put it. Point Curation, thank you. Kind of sloshed, but enjoying the background talk. Well, whatever gets you through the stream. Thank you, Point Curation. And thank you, Tall Person. I'm impressed, Scribe. It shows how much you love something. No shame in that. I know, right? I haven't thought about Asherad Het in eons. Like, it never comes up in my mind. All of a sudden, it's like, name the Tusken Raider Jedi. Like, oh my God, I can do this. I can do this. Quiz me, Satsu. Ask me something about Star Wars.
Man, I don't even know enough to ask you anything.
Ask about any character you know the name of. That isn't like, I mean, anybody that's not like the main three, because everybody knows those stories.
Is Jar Jar the best Sith Lord there is?
No, you know what actually happened to Jar Jar?
What happened to him?
Okay, so Jar Jar Binks, of course, the Gungan who was found on Naboo by Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi and everything, and just by happenstance got caught up in giant galactic events. He eventually replaced Padme Amidala as the ambassador to Naboo, which made absolutely no sense, but hey, there you go. I think it was kind of a compromise thing because the Gungans and the Nabooians, or what do you want to call them, they lived on the same planet but had this big conflict for years over the land dwellers versus the ocean dwellers. And Jar Jar taking over was, I guess, kind of a unification move. It's like, we're friends now, so let's put the most prominent member of the war with the Trade Federation into the position. Anyway, so Jar Jar was eventually the senator, sorry, I said diplomat, I meant senator, who was the deciding vote that effectively gave Palpatine the powers of the Empire. So really, politically, mechanically speaking, it's Jar Jar's fault that the Galactic Empire even exists. And that realization down the line destroyed Jar Jar, like into absolute oblivion and obscurity, to the point where he ended up, I forget what planet it was, but he ended up as a broken down old Gungan, basically begging for money by dancing like a clown on a street corner just to get some kind of scraps, because he couldn't get away from the burden of what he'd done. It's actually a really, really sad story what happened to Jar Jar in the canon, the new canon, I should say.
The Jar Jar struggle.
I know. And if I remember correctly, in the Clone Wars, he ended up like making googly eyes at some Rhodian princess or something, I think. I think he had a girlfriend briefly. Either way, yeah, Jar Jar's a very tragic figure.
Clearly.
Anyway, with that, guys, we're going to move on to the wonderful world of YouTube time. Thank you so much for all the stories. Even the Star Wars one, because golly, that got me all kinds of excited, didn't it? So, Satsu, what you been up to on the YouTubes?
Not much, honestly. I recorded another cooking video today. It was the first video I recorded of the what the fuck? I keep forgetting the name of this. Every Plate or whatever. The cheapest so far of the meal delivery services, and there was a massive difference between the first box I got and the second one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what the fuck happened, but the first one, it looked like they fucking, instead of delivering it in a truck, they had some fucking brain dead person kick it down the street until it got here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one was fucking pristine. Like the box looked like they took it right out of the place. All the vegetables and stuff that came in there, and the meat, everything was perfectly ripe, and just, I was like, what the hell happened here? So I guess, it's kind of up in the air. Mm-hmm. The one thing I will say ahead of time is they don't have a crazy variety of different things, but as it stands, I'm not really seeing much of a difference between the two for the price to be so dramatic, Mm-hmm. So outside of the fact that not everything is portioned out and put into separate bags for you, I don't know. I'm starting not to see a reason to do HelloFresh at all comparatively, but I guess we'll see. Because like I said, less variety could be the selling point for some people, where they're just like, well, I want access to this stuff. But as far as the quality and the way their stuff is presented, it all is the same so far. But yeah, that'll be dropping at some point. It's in the queue with a fucking 35 other videos that I got lined up for my cooking channel. Outside of that, gaming videos have been just kind of coming up as they come up. And I played a little Medieval Dynasty recently because I haven't played that game in quite some time. You remember we were talking a lot about that. Mm-hmm. They added a lot of shit since the last time I played. I mean, quite a bit of the a lot of the mechanics and stuff are kind of different. The UI has been upgraded a little bit. The way you talk to NPCs and what they have to offer is different. Their currency system got upgraded. I'm like, holy fuck, dude. I missed out on quite a bit. So I was trying to wrap my mind around that shit. And I'm just like, you know what? I ain't got time for this. So not a lot on the YouTube side.
Alrighty. Let's see. Where did I see something here? Emily Williams asks, Scribe, what's Ahsoka's backstory? The little that I remember about pre-Clone Wars stuff is that she was a youngling initially trained by Master Plo Koon, and then sort of handed off to Anakin to be his first Padawan at the, oh God, was it the Battle of Munilist, maybe? Or was it, no, it wasn't Munilist, it's something like that. Anyway, yeah, and then everything after that is in the Clone Wars, and that would take hours to tell. But that's what little I remember that she had a history with Master Plo before then. As far as like where she came from, what happened to her parents, and all that stuff. Honestly, that part I don't know. So I'm kind of lost on that stuff. Anything sort of post Revenge of the Sith stuff, I only know through the Clone Wars cartoon series, because I never read any of the sort of post Return of this or post Clone Wars like novels really, or the comic books. So my knowledge is kind of all legends from Clone Wars and back before the cartoon, if that makes any sense. So that's what little I know. As for YouTube stuff, well, I did the today's theme and all that good stuff. Thursday, I'll be doing a TED Excellence per usual. I'm kind of debating over what to do, but I did find a restorative justice video that I haven't covered before. That came out just a few days ago, so I'm thinking about that one. But let me read you the title, Satsu, and see if anything jumps out at you. So yeah, the one I'm thinking about doing, because I haven't done a restorative justice one, Leaving Punishment Behind, Embracing New Ideas of Justice.
Leaving punishment behind.
Yes, I'm not, given the broad scope of what punishment could mean, I'm not quite sure what she intends, which is why I'm very curious maybe to listen to it. The next one is Forget About Work-Life Balance. Now, I've talked before about the degradation, I should say, of the professional distance in the workplace in several places these days, where they try to integrate your real life, your personal life with the company's time, so that you're always kind of on the clock, and how kind of creepy that can be. So I don't know if this is a piece of advice or a warning, right? Depending on how you phrase it. Forget about work-life balance. Like, you're not going to be able to have it anymore, or you shouldn't. That was the question mark that made me think maybe I'll look at that one. The next one is I support black mediocrity.
What?
Just because it's relevant to this, the speaker is a black man.
So that story is about me, it sounds like.
Yes, there you go. It's on his business cards, everybody. Satsu 2 cents, black mediocrity in the flesh.
That's right.
And then lastly, diversity is overrated. Why leaders need cultural intelligence. And I have a distinct feeling that cultural intelligence is going to sound a heck of a lot like diversity initiatives.
Man, dude, we make a joke about it. Like, we joke, ha ha ha, it's so funny. Like, just change the name and now it's something different. But that's exactly what's happening.
Thank you, Point Curation. Don't know what else to do but staple art in public. Walls, handrails, benches, etc. in order to compete with Globo Homo? What? Subvert cultural vandalism, assert moral autonomy. Yeah, Point has shared with me some photographs he's taken of art that he's put in random places around the city, around where he lives. So, like, he'll just sort of stealth post a little piece of his artwork somewhere and just leave it there and then take a photograph of it. And I think, honestly, he should turn taking photographs of his art in random places and turn those into art pieces themselves. It reminds me, there was a story I'm sure this happened a long time ago, but I only saw like a meme of it recently, where a couple of guys posted a really friendly photo of themselves walking down the street eating McDonald's. And they posted it inside of McDonald's like it was just one of McDonald's promo pieces of wall art. They stealth posted it there, and it stayed there for like 5 years, and nobody noticed.
Yeah.
And eventually, when it was some ridiculous amount of time, might not have been 5 years. It was a long time. Anyway, when they finally noticed, like, McDonald's gave them, I forget what it was, some kind of like grant or some kind of like free meals for a year or something. Whatever, because they got away with it. And you look at it, it looks exactly like the kind of thing McDonald's would post about just like two random people enjoying McDonald's in a McDonald's. Yeah, so it was great. But thank you, Point. And again, guys, go check out his Etsy store. The title of it is just Point Curation, all one word, but capitalized both words. And he's got a 70% off discount code, Turtle Cave, all one word, for his original art. Other than the TEDx, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go with the restorative justice one, but hey, I've got some in the wings in case something else comes up. On Sunday, I'll be doing a triple feature covering in various forms the terms or concepts of cultural proficiency, and or cultural competence, which I have heard used in conjunction with or in replacement of theories related to critical race theory. So are these the same thing? Are they offshoots? Like I say, I've heard them mentioned, but these videos talk about them explicitly. So I've got 3 relatively short videos, 2 6-minute videos and 1 13-minute video from different sources on the subjects. So I'll be taking a look at those in conjunction on Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern for The Sunday Show. So there's that. And thank you again, Point Curation. Guerrilla art and Globo Homo is seen surface level as this gay earth, but is more accurately global homogeneity. Canada is a petri dish for it. I've never heard of that organization or that movement. This Gay Earth. Okay. You Canadians are weird. You guys are weird.
Yeah, y'all a little strange.
Yeah, I mean, and I live in America, and I'm saying this.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow!
And we ain't got no place to be calling nobody weird.
I know. Tell me about it. I just went chapter and verse on a fictional Tusken Raider Jedi who became a Sith.
Unapologetically, too.
Unapologetically. In a comic series that actually was responsible for one of the coolest looking Sith Lords was the red tattooed Twi'lek hot girl, Darth Talon. Yeah, if you guys don't know who Darth Talon is, oh boy. You want to see some comic book art that would be absolutely excoriated and burned off of the earth these days if it came out? Just do a Google search for Darth Talon. But be careful. There's probably a lot of not safe for work photos out there as well. Let's move on to not YouTube time. Internet fucketry briefly before we get on to question time. Do I have much today? I have a little bit. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on today. Most of it can be covered in Ranting Monkeys videos and live stream today. Specifically, an interaction that Sinatra Says had with Karen. Is it Karen or Carlin? I apologize. I don't know how to say her name exactly. I've only seen it a couple of times. But Karen or Carlin Boyshireko or something. I'm fucking that up. Anyway, I've seen her all over the place, and people have actually recommended to me that I interview her for Familiar with the Matter before, because she's ostensibly, as far as I understand it, been somebody who's been outspoken against critical race theory and all types of other subjects similar to some things that I cover. But I guess today she's taken a turn where if you say that critical race theory isn't inherently anti-white, she will block you / ban you.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I don't claim to know exactly how it works. It's best. I listened to a little bit of Monkey in the Morning stream today with Sinatra, because Sinatra was blocked by her after he, not in an acidic way or like a mean way. He just objected to, I guess, her assertion that somehow CRT and anti-whiteness don't combine or something. I don't know. But anyway, so that happened, and I guess there's some drama going on there. The other drama that we talked a little bit about last night was a purported planned debate between Ethan Klein of H3H3 Productions and Steven Crowder. Is he still banned off? Was he banned off of YouTube? I forget now. Anyway, Steven Crowder is sort of the live streaming / radio conservative host, to put it mildly. There was a planned debate between the two where Ethan Klein offered to debate Crowder, and Crowder said, sure. And then I guess at literally the 11th hour, Ethan Klein tried to substitute in Sam Cedar, a completely different person, obviously, and a longtime political commentator and radio show host, to debate Crowder as some kind of bring in a ringer switcheroo. And that has not shown well on Ethan Klein, obviously, to a lot of people. But yeah, so
just putting that out there. I have never liked Ethan, just because he has that kind of he has the behavior patterns of some of the people that I've gotten into it frequently on the internet, the mundane Mets and the Sofanes or whatever. That little snarky bitch-like shit where he constantly does things that he calls, that he labels as all kinds of things or whatever. But then when somebody else does it, he's like, wow, you're really evil for even considering doing something like that. And I'm like, dude, I can look in your history right now and see you doing these things on several occasions. I didn't even know about this thing. But I remember somebody brought up, I saw something online that was talking about, Ethan and Crowder, they were supposed to be debating. And even I was like, oh, that bitch is going to bitch out. He's definitely, it is a 100% chance that he's going to do whatever he can to weasel his way out of it, because he's a little pussy.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, and that's exactly what happened.
Because when I heard about it, unfortunately, I heard about it after the whole switcheroo happened. Mm-hmm. And truth be told, I don't think I have ever watched a single H3H3 video. The most I know about Ethan Klein comes from clips and other scandals and things from the past. But the things and the patterns of things I've watched other commentators talk about regarding him and everything else, if I'd heard about it ahead of time, my first thought would be Tonka Saw versus Andy Worski.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be my first, like, this isn't going to happen. Now, I would not have imagined he'd try to pull in a ringer, but either declining or, fading out or something, maybe. But anyway, it's slightly outside of my knowledge base. But Pecoraro, thank you so much. Poutine. I want one with steak now. Okay. Well, you have a wife, right? She can make one for me.
Wow, Scribe.
What am I saying? What?
Sexism on our show.
I know. Thank you, Point Curation. Again, Carlin is an SJW in a new cloak. I mean, that is what people are telling me now. But again, I had heard of her. I had seen her face in places. I know nothing about her. Like everything I know about her is as like happening today. And that always makes me a little cagey about trying to like accept that this is the person. So I get that people are saying that. Maybe it's true. I don't know. But yeah, that's the gist I'm getting from a lot of people who have followed her. And Poker Pierce, thank you so much, Scribe. I'm proud of you and the man you are. Well, thank you, Poker. I'm more than happy to read that at the time that you posted, unlike some people.
Excuse me?
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. You're a wife, aren't you? Sorry, what? Oh,
House bitch.
Pecoraro, thank you so much again. The unedited vid is linked in chat for H3B or HV Crowder. Oh, did it actually happen? Did I miss that part? Did they actually go through the debate? I don't know.
Oh yeah, well yeah. The clip. If you watch Monkey's video, he went through it or whatever. He showed up and right before it started, before they connected the audio, Crowder was just like, you know what? I think he's going to try to get out of this somehow. I don't know.
It didn't happen until right before?
No, it happened during.
Oh, I thought it was like an hour or two or something.
No.
Before.
It was literally like right after Crowder started. He started initiating the conversation. And during, he was just like, yeah, well.
That's even shittier. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't know anything about H3 to begin with, it doesn't matter who that was. That's bullshit.
He actually showed up. He showed up, greeted Crowder. They talked back and forth and went back and forth or whatever. And as soon as Crowder started initiating the conversation, he was like, yeah, I kind of brought somebody else in to do this for me. Like, what, you little fucking bitch. Wow. Oh my God. It was supposed to be like, if you were looking at it from somebody who supports him, it was supposed to be like a, oh, he got you moment. But it was just like a, really? Okay. You started this shit. You initiated it. You agreed to the debate.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, somebody was showing up, and I assume it's legitimate. The initial DM exchange that started the whole debate plan, and it was from Ethan Klein. That sort of suggested it. So, well, I didn't know it like happened during the broadcast. That's nuts. Thank you, Point Curation again. Argued deplatforming equals wrong. No platforming equals fine. Oh, I see. Okay. No double points to me for catching him because I caught him last night in the sense that, after he closed out the stream, I was kind of like, because that didn't, so. But either way, so Poker, he has made his penance for sure. Yeah,
and I was following Ethan for a bit, just because he was like in the circle. It was like Keemstar, Ethan, and all those people. They were just like, But I had to stop following him because he was just annoying on Twitter. He was constantly, and the tripped out part is he pulled that, I don't know why he would want to debate me anyway. I'm not really political, at all, really. When it comes, I'm like, are you fuck?
Yeah. Sinatra says in the chat, says Ethan started the drama with Crowder, set the terms of the debate, and then he pulled this. No respect for the man. Yeah, I didn't know it was. I didn't know he pulled this like on the day of, in the middle of. That is just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I have put him in the little bitch basket with some of the other people who I have deemed as little bitches.
Okay. Thank you, again, Poker. They talked about their families, then he switched. Oh, geez.
Yeah,
that's just low,
dude. It was like a
right.
normal greeting. They were just
Yeah.
kind of building up and getting ready. The typical kind of pleasantries you pay to somebody who's going, taking their time to show up and have a conversation.
All right.
And Crowder was very pragmatic about it. Like
Mm-hmm.
he was coming at it very, he could have been an asshole from the gate, but he was like, we're gonna do the, and he just fucking.
All right. Well, everyone, we're into question time. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, complaints, conspiracy theories, put them in the chat now. If you have questions for us directly, please put plenty of chat marks after those. If you have statements for us to consider, please put plenty of statement marks after those. Yeah. If you don't know what I'm talking about, well, sucks to be you, I guess. Let's see. Pyrus Creed says, honestly, I have more respect for Logan Paul than Ethan Klein at this point. Say what you will, but at least Logan got into the literal ring and took numerous punches from Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
That's true enough. Whether or not you think Floyd Mayweather actually put his all into it's a different thing. But hey, yeah, actually, he showed up, did what he said he would do. Frost Class, how did Jordan Peele invent racial horror? The Birth of a Nation in 1915 was all about fearing a race.
But was it a horror movie though?
Yeah, that was more like a documentary or a dramumentary, whatever you want to call it, docudrama. I guess the technicality they're leaning on, which is hard to argue with, is that it was a straight up thriller / horror movie with sort of sci-fi gore elements to it. So I don't know. I mean, now of course Ebony says there was of course Lakeview Terrace, but I'm sure that would fall more in the category of a thriller.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to tell sometimes where the line is between thriller and horror. I guess it depends on either the kind of gore or the mechanisms by which the gore is happening. Something. I'm sure there are cinematic scholars out there that have made a much better analysis of it. Thank you, Endpoint Curation. Besides vandalism, don't know what else to do besides self-immolation. What are your thoughts on the state of Canada? Okay, well, I'm sure that technically Canada isn't a state, but setting aside that nitpicking, I don't know. Like I said, the most direct download I have about Canadian politics came from that interview I did with Jen T. Maxey, and I was kind of blown away at that point. The kind of what politics and what the politicians have done or initiated up there in the last couple of years, as embodied by Prince Valiant or whatever, have always been kind of goofy to me. And the other thing too, I guess the thing that I see most constantly, just because I watch these true crime videos, is that I'll hear a story about the one I just listened to the other day, a case I was relatively familiar with elsewise, but the case of Dylan Millard in Canada, a guy who left every red flag you could think of to the cops in the years preceding several murders he committed, and yet at no time did they go that's suspicious. No, they just kind of let it go. So besides all the other political shenanigans going on, just I don't know, the curiosity of law enforcement that ends up leading to people running reigns of terror for years when they could have been caught so easily. Because the one in this video, they showed a police interview they did with him after they discovered the death of his father. And he is acting so bizarre and answering the questions in such obviously suspicious ways, but they're like, oh, it's obviously a suicide. And then, of course, he'd go on to kill 2 or 3 more people between then. And I was like, yeah, okay. Anyway, so that's the most I think of overall Canadians' goings-ons right now. Ebony Williams, Scribe, favorite true crime documentary? Well, the sort of cinematic snob in me would probably have to say The Thin Blue Line, which is a documentary from I think the mid-90s by Errol Morris that talked about the death of a police officer. And it's famous because the documentary led to, without ruining it, changes in the nature of the outcome of the crime. That's about as high level as I can get. But man, there are a lot of good documentaries out there, true crime documentaries. I mean, I think that the documentary Smartest Guys in the Room, which covers the Enron scandal, I mean, that's a true crime documentary if there ever was one. There are so many. There are so many that I could go off on for a long time. So, but yeah, if you want to start out with a really good one that you don't have to sort of, guess as to whether or not it's any good. Yeah, Thin Blue Line from Errol Morris is a good one to go after. Travis Gardner, Lords, when did it become bad to ask experts to show evidence or make a case for their theories? As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't. And if you get pushback on that, well, if someone makes a claim or makes a statement of fact, the onus is on them to back that up, or to at least attempt to explain themselves. Now, whether or not their explanation or evidence convinces you, if their theory is something that's in question, that's up to you. But if someone says, I don't have to prove that to you or whatever else, then as far as I'm concerned, you can just disregard that person. Now, whether or not that means you can then disregard that theory is a separate thing, because you could just have someone who is just bad or just play acting at being an expert on something. That's why I look at so many people, different people, offering their pitch on the same thing, right? Because you can always just come across somebody who's just bad at their job. That doesn't make the job somehow nullified or irrelevant. That's why I'll take a look at a restorative justice speaker on Thursday. It'll be like the 7th or 8th presentation I've seen on the subject, because I can't necessarily accept one person's version of it as fact or as necessarily the highest quality presentation. So that's my long-winded reaction to that one. Thank you, Piccolo. Paul Bernardo was just rejected parole again today. Well, good. That guy's a monster. Now, Carla Homolka should still be in prison. But again, because the cops did not do a thorough job, they gave her a sweetheart immunity deal before they found the videotapes that showed she participated in the crimes. But by then she'd already signed it. It was locked, stocked, and everything. So she was immune, even though they had evidence that she took part in murders. Oh, but now she's just living her own life somewhere with her own new family, husband and kids. Yeah, that whole, again, an example of the, and I'm not saying that all Canadian police are lax in their ability or stick-to-itiveness or something, but man, when the Canadian police mess up, boy, oh boy, it seems to be really freaking dramatic as to the consequences of them messing up, doesn't it? Anyway, let's see. Sorry, guys, chat jumped on me. Check your logic. Do Ethan's sycophants demanding each other to comment on Steven's video to debate Sam Cedar count as targeted harassment?
It should, based on YouTube's guidelines, but
okay.
But it, when they say targeted harassment, they mean as long as you're targeting somebody who we think is okay to target.
Frosty guys, what two genres would be the most difficult to combine and make a coherent movie? What two genres would we could combine and make a coherent movie? Racial terror children's film. Oh, wait, that'd probably just be the movie version of Anti-Racist Baby, wouldn't it?
I mean, isn't that basically every fucking CalArt cartoon?
How about romantic comedy torture porn? I guess there's The Audition.
Wait a minute.
What?
50 Shades of Grey?
Oh, yeah, maybe. Actually, just watching or reading 50 Shades of Grey is torture porn in and of itself, let alone the content. Thank you, Point Curation. Look into the Cheeseman affair.
Cheeseman?
Cheeseman?
Cheeseman.
I don't want to hear about a cheese man having sex. Anyway, thank you, Poker Pierce. Sinatra's a hoe, that is all. Oh.
Sinatra, you a hoe.
I was not aware that Sinatra also doubled as a gardening tool. Of course, I don't know what Shelley has him get up to in his free time, so maybe he is. Point Curation, fucking RCMP were tactical idiots, got newbies killed, and decided to spend an unlimited amount of money to make someone else look stupid. You could be describing any raft of cases I've heard about the RCMP. So, yeah, especially like after the Della Millard verdict, And when the RCMP guy was questioned by the media about their messing up over the course of the case, and he just completely trying to matrix dodge any responsibility on the part of police and letting that guy operate for years ahead of time. Let's see, scroll up a little bit. Random American, howdy everyone. Was it a good stream? Good stream. It was a great stream. I got to go off into La La Land about obscure Star Wars trivia that even I had forgotten I knew until the subject came up. And I was about 95% accurate in my retelling of it. So, hey. Frosted Glass, I don't have a question, but can I bring in Sam Cedar to ask one for me? Hell, if Sam Cedar wants to come onto the show just to say hi, I'm fine with that. I mean, I want to talk to him really briefly if I have the opportunity. I want to ask him how good it felt to completely own that guy years ago on the War on Christmas thing on CNN. Because he appeared on CNN with a guy who was saying, there's a war on Christmas and everything. And Cedar's comebacks and they're just brilliant. It was hilarious. I think you can still find the clip on YouTube somewhere, but yeah, no, I'd love to talk to him about that. And he's had a very long career in broadcasting and everything, so I'm sure there's something interesting to talk to Sam Cedar about, even if you don't agree with his politics, which is fine. Let's see. Cougar Knife, Ethan made a video on about how Crowder bullied him and made fun of his disability. What I thought, I know nothing about Ethan Klein's personal life, so I don't know what his disability is. Even going as far to say it made him feel bad about himself. Do you think YouTube is going to go after Crowder? Again? It was Crowder, technically, sort of backwards wise, it was Crowder's making fun of Carlos Maza that led to the most recent adpocalypse, or the Voxpocalypse, depending on how you look at it. And they've censured him before. They demonetized his entire network at one point, didn't they?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay, well, thanks for backing me up on that one.
Some things I don't know, man.
It's all right. It's all right. Daniel Fullman, do local idiots set off fireworks in your area?
Everywhere I've ever lived.
Yeah. Last year, I know there was a complete ban on non-controlled, sanctioned fireworks just because of just the heat, the amount of fire danger there was because of just the dryness of everything. But yeah, sure, there were cannons going off and bottle rockets and all that stuff. So I completely expect to hear fireworks and everything, even though it is against local law to do anything like that. Because, hey, 4th of July, if you light somebody's house on fire, well, hey, it's a celebration. Let's see, Pyrus Creed, what's the deal with Paul Bernardo? Well, there are several excellent documentaries out there talking about the epic saga of Paul Bernardo and Karla Homolka. I would be doing it a disservice by giving you a capsulated version here. So Pyrus Creed, I recommend you go look up his name and find a documentary. There's plenty. It's a really insanely monstrous story about what those two ended up doing, and then probably maybe at least as egregious, if not perhaps worse, the resolution, quote unquote, after he and Karla were caught. I kind of gave that bit away earlier, but man, so stupid. Let's see. Andrew Joyner, you think there is any merit to what Carolyn is saying about CRT not being anti-white? Well, no, anti-white is at the core of CRT theory. Now, you'll have people arguing, it's just about highlighting the history that no one wants to talk about the power differentials between whites and non-whites through the historical context of slavery and oppression and so on and so forth. It's not about villainizing anyone for their skin color. It's just about being honest about the origins of power and systemic racism in the world and in America specifically. That is what the academic trying not to admit the truth of what it's being leveraged into will say. But ultimately, CRT promotes the idea that there is a racial value in power and morality and literal like values, like principle values, in the modern day. That white people today have to keep in mind their whiteness and what that means in the historical context when encountering people who are not white. So like that teacher I showed on TEDx last week who said, teachers have to keep in mind that when they see a black student write their name on a piece of homework, that name is actually a remnant of slavehood. Just so you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, all the other examples. And every time I hear someone say now, here's an example of how critical race theory is being applied in schools or a business setting or something else, I'm always told that's not really CRT. Robin DiAngelo isn't actually talking about critical race theory. Like, you're going to have to do a bit more than that to disprove that claim. Because it sure as hell, because like I said, I just listened to a panel of critical race theory enthusiasts tell me exactly the same concepts, the same terminology, the same conclusions, the same theories that I hear from Robin DiAngelo, the teachers that I cover, the business people that I cover. And this is back in 2010, before all the current hysteria over CRT, back before it was a politicized thing, at least as much as it is now. If you've gone into that thing and changed all the rhetoric from even mentioning critical race theory and just said, we're going to be talking about anti-racism, no difference. Absolutely no difference. So if the experts sound exactly like everybody else talking about the subject, you're going to have to do a lot more heavy lifting to convince me, because that ain't it. Don't know what to tell you. Moving on, let's see. Cougar Knife again. I no longer fill out my race on paperwork. I'm not being categorized based off skin color. That's perfectly within your right to do. I know that some things do it for survey purposes or something else, or especially in medicine, sometimes there can be a medical significance to it. Like, sickle cell anemia affects African Americans more in a way that it doesn't necessarily affect Caucasians. So there are some cases where that information is relevant outside of making some sort of like judgment call or some sort of statistical analysis. But unless it's necessary, I don't really understand sometimes why that's on certain forms or tests or things. Unless it deals with medicine or some aspect of legal identification, I'm never quite sure what the relevance is. Let's see. What else? Let's see. Okay. Ebony Williams, my lords, you heard about the Snow White remake with Rachel Ziegler. I saw an article posting about it. Did you see this, Satsu?
No.
Okay, so I don't know anything about Rachel Ziegler, except for the fact that apparently I think she's playing Maria in Steven Spielberg's remake of West Side Story, I think. Or at least she has a part in West Side Story. But she has been cast in the live-action upcoming remake, reimagining, or whatever from Disney of Snow White. The issue, of course, is, well, what do you think, Satsu?
I don't know. She's white, I guess.
She's not white. That's the problem.
Oh.
She is, yeah. So they're casting Snow White with a girl who is not white, and so it's once again, de-whitening an established character, or doing all this. So it's another example of forced diversity for no reason, etc. I saw a couple people saying, like, didn't we just see this with Anne Boleyn? It wasn't even like a character, but a historical figure, etc. So that's the latest Disney casting controversy. Just like The Little Mermaid and onward, this is the trend now. So, when I saw it, I was kind of like, I kind of shrugged my shoulders. I was just like, okay. But yeah, I heard about it. It's just another one of those Disney's good at Disney, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know.
It's their project. What do they want to do? I'm sure it'll still make $1 zillion billion because it's still Disney, and even their worst movies end up making a bunch of money. Now, depending on how much I think even the Aladdin remake, which I never watched, but everybody that I know who loves Aladdin, who did watch it, were like, "This is awful." Like, it's just like even the singing was bad, the songs are bad, it wasn't funny, it wasn't fun, it was just flat. But it still made a ton of money, and that's what's going to drive it. I mean, even if you find it in bad taste, or you find it silly or pandering, if the box office breaks, they'll just keep making them. And no matter what. Checkerlar says her parents are Polish and Colombian. Okay, yeah, I didn't know anything about the actress at all. All I know is that she was already has been in Spielberg's West Side Story remake, and then everybody's like, well, she's not Snow White, etc. I'm like, okay, whatever. Let me say, I'm kind of, at this point, I'm fairly indifferent to the whole thing. It's like, oh, the drama. I'm like, well, whatever. Now, of course, I would be curious to know with that New York Times, was it New York Times? It was a New York Times or Washington Post reporter who took such exception to the kinds of people cast in the Heights movie who were not the right color for the neighborhood that the movie took place in. I'd be curious to know what her opinion is on this casting, because if her complaint there was the movie did not reflect the source material facts, does she share the same concerns in this instance? My assumption is either she doesn't or she's not commented on it at all, but you never know. Fresca Scribe, were you talking about In Cold Blood, the movie where the execution area was called The Corner? Well, I wasn't. I mean, I referred to In Cold Blood, but I mean, you could always watch that movie, or you could watch Capote if you want to find out about the behind-the-scenes stuff, at least dramatized, and with an excellent performance by Philip Seymour Hoffman. Truly, his death was one of the greatest tragedies to actual quality acting in my generation. But as most brilliant artists tend to do, their first priority is to destroy themselves before they hit 50. Anyway, but yeah, I did mention it. But was it called The Corner? Was the gallows called The Corner? I don't know. If that's the case, I don't recall. But then that's not much of an advertisement for your show, is it? Come to my show. We'll hang out together. Let's see. Cannibalistic Wizard, pan-seared cod served on a honey wheat panini and topped with a teriyaki, or do you mean teriyaki sauce, and a pineapple tropical salsa, cheddar dusted home-style fries, and a Hawaiian Punch Long Island iced tea. Holy cow, man. I don't know if that combination of flavors would sit well with me.
Right.
Cod, honey wheat, teriyaki, pineapple, salsa, and then cheese dusted fries and Hawaii. Yeah, and I think that's a bit of oversweet, tangy, sour overload for anything in my system.
That's a bit much.
Yeah, that's you need to tone it down. You need to dilute some of that. Like just cut in half one of those things, and maybe, but yeah, that's a bit too much. Let's see. Pyrus Creed, if you were a Jedi, what form of lightsaber combat would you like to use, and which would you avoid? Personally, I'd use Makashi and avoid Nyman. I'd become a Sarisu master, kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi is, if I remember correctly. Now, the one you want to avoid is Vapid, or Vapad, depending how you pronounce it. Even though that was Mace Windu's signature style, it tempts you towards the dark side. And you want to avoid that if I were a Jedi. Now, ideally, I am the Sith Lord Darth Scrivener. But you asked if I was a Jedi. So yes, I'd go for Sarisu because it's kind of an all-purpose sort of form. And if you master it, you've got some pretty good footing to work with. But yeah, stay away from Vapad or Vapid. And yeah, so there you go. What about you, Satsu? What would be your signature lightsaber form?
I don't know the fucking difference between
just say a number between 1 and 4.
whichever one fucking Darth Maul used.
That's I think that isn't that Nyman? I think it's a double-bladed lightsaber, so I forget what that falls under, honestly. Yeah. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I forget that one. But you could have just said any number between 1 and 4, and it'd be like form, insert a number, and you could have gotten away with it. But oh well. I tried. I tried to help. Data Wasteland Scribe Light, when you were a kid, ever get a goldfish at the fair in a sandwich bag? No, but Data Wasteland, why are you writing in something other than capital letters?
Yeah.
Okay. Who are you and what have you done with Data?
Who are you and why are you not yelling at me?
And with that mystery as a cliffhanger, guys, we're at the top of the hour and thus the end of the show. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate it. You guys are the greatest audience in the world. Satsu, where can people find you next?
Here tomorrow, most likely.
You mean on your channel?
On my channel.
Okay, yes.
Most likely.
Satsu's channel for the next episode of Lords of the Night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Link in the description. As for myself, well, you'll find me on Satsu's channel as well for the same show at the same time. And then after that on Thursday, the next TED Excellence, where I'll take a look at another restorative justice pitch from a completely different person for the sake of variety. That'll be at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Keep an eye on my Twitter for the link to that when the time comes. Again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. You guys are the greatest audience in the world. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everyone who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. Very much appreciated. Again, guys, take a look at Point Curation's Etsy store. And if you are interested in any of his artwork, you have an opportunity to have a 70% discount using the code TurtleCave. The Etsy store is just Point Curation, all one word. Capitalize those two words within the word, and you'll be set to go. Everyone, thank you again for joining us. Oh! Point Curation, Etsy. Did I say eBay? Did I say Etsy? I did say Etsy, didn't I? Satsu's not paying attention. It's fine. Thank you again, Point Curation, Etsy store, if I didn't say otherwise. But, everyone, thank you for joining us. Satsu, thank you for joining me as always.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, your lives make us sad, but we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
And taking out my copy of Screw the Roses, Send Me the Thorns, the romance and sexual sorcery of sadomasochism.
Sadomasochism.
Today's secret word is aware. Be aware.
Are you aware that no one cares?
Every day.
Mm-hmm.